What is going on? Welcome back to the Dutchy and Swoop Show. A big episode as we dissect that 64-point thrashing to the Hawks. Dutch, how you going, mate?
Mate, I've been depressed. Since I
it.
saw you last. Actually,
Yeah.
my local team's lost. Pies lost. Both my kids are out of finals, junior finals as well. There's not much to be happy about at the moment. Jeez, I hope things get better from here for the Pies. That's
far out. Yeah, it's cooked at the moment. So that was on Thursday, and I woke up on Friday, fell asleep on the couch, and I just didn't want to move. I was just done. I haven't been that depressed.
The good thing about footy is there's always next week.
That's it, and that's all you can.
Still in it.
All you can go off, right?
That's right.
It's not an elimination final. You
No.
put to bed everything that sort of happened.
Yeah.
A fly came out in the presser and said, the only things that you make permanent are what you want to make permanent, and they're just going to forget about everything that's what happened. And it's all about just keeping it simple now. They just tried to do too much. But how did you see the game?
Oh, look, it wasn't great. Obviously, I didn't go to the game. I watched it on the TV this time around, but it just looked to me like they were just flat as a tack. They just couldn't defend well. Obviously, they've got some issues with defending the goal line and their deep D50 or deep back 20 for that matter at the moment. When the ball sits up, they look like they're putting a lot of work into Darcy Moore and engaging body and pushing him away from the aerial ball drop, and Darcy Cameron, they're starting to work him over as well. We couldn't put pressure on the opposition. It was like, I think we had 42 tackles for the game, which is our second lowest tackle count for the year, and we've been so good at out-tackling teams for the majority of the year, and that's been our forte, our pressure. To me, that says... and I know all the excuses from the Collingwood supporters that come out over the last couple of weeks. But you know what? You've always got to analyse things as a supporter and go, why are these things happening? And I analyse everything. They played 3 games in 11 days. That was the third game on the 11th day that they'd played. If you go back to the game that they played on the 27th, I think the Richmond game on the 27th. There's 10, 11 days only up until that Hawthorn game on a Thursday night. Yeah. So with ageing bodies, and this is why they've been managing their list, all year.
They knew it was coming up.
Because this was always going to happen late in the year. And if they could manage as well as they could, they were hoping to avoid this happening. But it's come, and it's come at the absolute wrong time. Yeah. But the good thing is we get 9 days, we freshen up, we're able to get some loading in on the training without overdoing, but freshen up for the Adelaide game. To be honest, I think they'll come up really well for the Adelaide game. Yeah,
I think that too. And that's wild to put into perspective, where between the Hawthorn and Adelaide game, we've got a 9-day break. But then between the Richmond, Brisbane and Hawthorn game, it was 11 days.
Yeah, crazy.
That's 3 games.
That's right.
Oh, well, that's at least 2 games in the break that we were going to have in this 9 days leading up to Adelaide. And you can see it. Very very lethargic. And we were saying it off camera as well. Like, how do you go from the best pressure side, the best defensive side, and then, the drop-off is just like a flick of the switch? It's not old legs. It's we'll talk about in a second about like training loads and what that sort of means professionally. Yeah. But 3 games in 11 days is going to cook anyone. Going from Brisbane to Hawthorn in 5 days it's big.
And you saw Brisbane last week. I mean, they came home nearly won in the end last week, but they were getting done over big time. Yeah. So, the Brisbane, don't underestimate how big a Brisbane Collingwood game is. You've got 2023 premiership team versus the 2024 with history. There's history going back right to my days in those 2 teams. 95,000 or whatever it was, 90,000 at the MCG. That is a big game for anyone to come off that in 5 days and perform 5 days later against a young, exuberant, enthusiastic Hawthorn team that had won. That lost the week before, so they were keen as mustard, and they needed it. They needed to win. So like you said with Fly, you nearly put a line through it. Yeah, try and work out some things that are going wrong. But when you're fatigued, when you're tired, everything goes. Your skills go because you can't stand up when you're kicking the ball. You're trying to kick the ball 50, it goes 40. When you're trying to kick accurately, you can't quite kick accurately. When you're trying to jump into the air on that 4th or 5th effort to punch that ball through, you just don't have the lift and drive in your legs. And lots can go wrong and lots can go quick. And it actually nearly reminded me of that Who was that grand final the other year when, that's right, Sydney we nearly beat Sydney in the prelim, and then they go on to get absolutely smashed by Geelong in that grand. It was nearly like that. Like, you think about go to that Brisbane smashed us in that last quarter.
Yeah, yep.
You know, we were already fatigued then, and then we didn't back up well and got absolutely, pounded from pillar to post against the Hawks.
Yeah, it was, it was sort of... It was a bit of an anomaly, kind of like the Giants game in that first.
Yeah.
Except, it was the heat or whatever sort of excuse you want to have for that Giants game. But after that Giants game, after that abysmal performance, we come out, smash Adelaide. Port Adelaide by 90 points or something, 92. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we can do the same to the latter leaders. What's in that Hawthorn game, Jeremy Howe goes out in the first minute, concussion, and he's back on the track now, which is great, great to see. How much does that, already being a tired, fatigued team, it could have went one or two ways. Like, it could have galvanised the group even more and for Steele's 350th, but it looks like it just sapped even more energy that they didn't even really have.
Yeah, I actually spoke to a couple of people that were there on the night, and they said it would just sap the atmosphere. It was nearly like, a balloon had popped and... everyone was in shock and didn't know what to do or say or think, and it looked like the playing group felt that. And usually when someone gets injured on the field, you don't think too much of it. But when it's someone like Jeremy Howe, so important to you, has had some layoffs already. He was the guy that was going to help get your back line back in shape. Plus, everyone loves him there at the footy club. He's one of the most well-loved people at that footy club. You can see how it sapped their energy, more mentally than anything. So, interesting, because up until a couple of people at the game told me the exact same story, how it felt like the atmosphere, it sapped the energy out of the atmosphere real quick, and I didn't believe it. But obviously you were there.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was behind the cheer squad when it happened. You could hear the collision. Because at the a minute in, no one's really loud or anything sort of like that, so you could hear it, you could feel it as well, like reverberate throughout the stadium, and there were. It was like for 15 minutes he was down there for, or something like that. So no one really knew what to do. There was a couple of Howie chants that went up when he was getting carted off, but you could just see that the boys were rattled. Yeah. And I think it's sort of indicative of how we've been the last 6 weeks. I think if this happened in round 8 or 9 or something, it would have galvanised the group. But because we were already mentally drained, physically drained, it did really
I would have liked a little bit more remonstration too.
Me too.
On the night. Yep. Like some serious remonstration.
There was no fight.
Like and all night. All night. I just would have been in that guy's ear, just whispering, "You go near that ball again, mate. Your head's going to come right off." I'm just joking. But no, I would have liked more fight and more anger at that.
But that's the biggest thing, right? Even in the Brisbane game, Fly came out and said that there was no fight, and we played boring, and Collingwood are known for that. We have guys on the team that will do that, and they just, it's almost like they just rolled over and said, "Look, we're going to lose this one. Let's not go." Look, and this is just me trying to conspiracy theorist, trying to piece together, trying to make myself give myself a little bit of hope. But it's like, look, we're going to lose. Let's just bruise free. Let's just get this game over with. We know we're going into a 9-day break. And, come out and attack Adelaide, because that's going to be the game that...
I don't know if you think like that as a player. You want to win every game, even if you're North Melbourne or West Coast and you're playing Adelaide or Collingwood or whoever, you still think you're a chance. You've got arms and legs, you're an elite young footballer, you're trying to make ways. You know it's going to click at some stage. So, even thinking about North Melbourne and the way they would think about games... Collingwood aren't going into a game thinking, shit, like we're fatigued, we've played 3 games in 11 days. They're still going out there to win it. But I just felt like mentally, physically, once they were in the game, they just knew that, hang on, we're way off. Yeah. This isn't going to happen. We're trying hard. We're trying to do everything we can. But we've just got to try our best to hold on for dear life. And that's what it looked like and felt like to me.
And have you experienced that as a player?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Like, there's been so many games where just me as an individual, like where I've gone, I felt like that, and maybe the rest of the team was going well, but I felt like that myself, where I felt like I can't chase here. I've got no second and third efforts, and it might be just the way you train during the week, or it might be that just you did a little bit too much. I felt like that in 2003 grand final. I felt like that from start to finish. I felt like I could not go. I just felt like physically I was exhausted before I started. I felt like I was playing with 10-kilo gumboots on the day, and I don't know if that was because of the nerves. I was overawed by the scenario, the situation, and the nerves got to me. The way I trained, maybe I hadn't done enough. Maybe maybe hadn't trained hard enough or wasn't fresh enough. I don't know what it was, but that's happened. And look, I've had games where, the whole team is just completely off. Like I mean, even like I think what year was it? I think it was 2000 and. It might have been 2003. We beat Geelong on the MCG by 130 points. I don't know if you remember that with Bartel and Ablett. Yeah. All these guys running around, stars of the game, and they ended up winning the flag. I think they won the flag the next year or the year after. I can't remember, but like they've literally gone from being one of the bottom teams out and out. We've beaten them by 130 points to that the next year. You can't tell me that that's just a connection. That's maybe the way they're training. But that can happen throughout the year. With an older group like us, or what's the average age of Collingwood at the moment?
It's like 29. So.
Average age of 29, 3 games in 11 days. And it's been a long year. You can't be up forever. And we were cherry ripe at the start of the year. We probably peaked a bit too early. And look, even 2023 when we won it, we lost a few games leading here, didn't we?
Yeah,
what was it? Can you remember?
Was it 4 of the last 5 or 3 of the last 4 or something like that? Yeah. We lost back-to-back Carlton and Hawthorn. Yeah. We lost that Brisbane game. Yeah. Then we go on and beat Geelong. And but we did... go through like this patch of just bad football, and I guess that kind of leads on to, and you sort of alluded to it with the training. We hear heavy training loads, load management, high training loads. Yeah, what does that mean as a professional footballer?
Yeah, I think sometimes, I mean, we used to do it even back then, even though it wasn't tracked as specifically. They track everything to the centimetre now. But I think. When you know that you've got some games coming up that are stacked together, you've probably got to get a decent amount of loading in your training in, because what ends up happening is because you're so fatigued and bruised and battered from your games, you can't get enough running and quality training sessions in. So you have to bank them earlier so that can hold you through that period, and that you can sustain that fitness and come out the other side just as good, if not better. So I would say that the training loads might go from an 8K session to a 12K, their main session. It might be an 8K to a 12K, and they might just up the ante with the intensity. They might do a bit of running before and after the session. They might do extra swimming. They might do an extra bike session on those weeks. And there might be some guys that need extra, and some guys that are a bit older might need a touch less, but they all do a little bit more than what they've been doing. And during that period, and they generally just load them up. I mean, you're saying that you're watching the session; they don't look too different. They might not be too much different, though, but they might be 3Ks difference. But all you're seeing is an extra 2 drills, really. Yeah, true. And you're not seeing what they do when they go back into the of this facility and do weights. They might be up the ante with the amount of reps and weight they put on their squats or their leg weights, etc. And try and just obviously put them in a good position. And then you don't know what you've been doing. They might have just got their load up a touch too much, and they've come into this period with an older group, and it was, geez, we're probably maybe mismanaged that slightly. Now we have to pull right back. Yeah. Sometimes panic stations set in, and it's a good thing, because you're forced to back right off and do virtually, let's just freshen up and just do what we have to, and then you come up really well because you're so fatigued and tired. Your body's just needs a spell. And like that's what I'm saying about this Adelaide game this week, about the 9-day break, being what we've been through, maybe a loading period, 3 games in 11 days, and then you get a good 9-day sort of buffer. Yep. leading to Adelaide, I get the feeling we're going to come up. I could be wrong, and I hope that I'm not wrong, but I get a good feeling this will be a good game, and we're going to be right in it, and we'll be back near back to our best this week. Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Like, this is probably the biggest game of our home and away season so far.
Yeah.
We had a nice little buffer, like 10 points. Obviously, you want to finish on top of the ladder just so you can say you finished on top of the ladder.
Yeah.
You get that guaranteed two home finals pretty much, and you get a little bit of soft cap money from finishing first.
Yeah.
But then we had the luxury of resting players and all this sort of stuff. And if it works, it looks good. If it doesn't work, it doesn't look good. And I think that's what we're going through right now. But this Adelaide game, and I said it as soon as we lost to Hawthorn, I go, we're in for a shot. We travel really well. I think we've. Adelaide haven't beaten us since 2016, so I don't know how much that plays on Adelaide's mind, or does it play on Collingwood's mind. We notoriously really good at Adelaide Oval. With travelling, you obviously done a lot with the Pies. What is that camaraderie? Is this what the guys need to just get away from the Melbourne bubble and get into a hotel, and have some continental breakfast together and sort it out?
I think it is really good. It brings the group together, and Collingwood have been renowned for going away together and connecting really well, playing good footy away from the MCG. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes this week. When you feel like the world is against you and your back's against the wall, and you go away together, this is a perfect time to connect and go, you know what, we're together. Let's do everything together. Let's feed off each other's energy and then go out and make it happen on game night. But I feel like this is perfect timing and exactly what they need in their season right now. And look, this game is going to be a hell of an interesting game when you look at it, because remember, they've got a lot of guys that haven't played finals before, this group, so do not underestimate the nerves, like you beat home all you like, but they're playing Collingwood and they have to win to keep that top spot or keep top two. They may lose top two if they don't win this game. They certainly won't finish top if they lose this game. You wouldn't have thought so. And we can still potentially finish top or second if we win. The wild thing, isn't it? And could actually miss the 8 if we lose both games as well. So this is an unbelievable finish in the AFL, isn't it, really, when you look at it all the way down. Fremantle supporters go, we're going to finish top 2, top 4 for the first time in however long, but they could miss it as well. And they've won. What have they won? 9 of the last 10 or 10 of the last 11? 10 of the last 11, yeah. That's unbelievable. But yeah, like I said, I'm going back to what I was saying before. Do not underestimate the nerves that these young Adelaide Crows got. I mean, Collingwood to be nervous as well, but they've got so many experienced players that have been through this, and they know how important this game is, and they know how to win these type of games. So, I just think it's a 50-50 game, this one. Yeah. Everyone's probably tipping Adelaide to win and win well, but do not underestimate the Pies when their backs are against the wall. No,
that's a pretty cool thing to bring up. As supporters, we always say that, like we wear the wounded magpie. We play best when our backs are against the wall. Do you remember back in lockdowns, we went over to WA, they were calling us the dirty Pies and all this sort of stuff. We couldn't win, and we ended up beating them in that elimination by a point or whatever it was. How much do you, as a player, can you feel that from the other team that they're nervous, or on the other flip of the coin, can you feel that it's like, okay, our backs are against the wall. Yeah. This is going to give us an extra 5%?
There is a different sort of energy about it when you're the dark horse or the underdog, so to speak. The mental flip of the whole situation just completely changes. Like you go from, and it's like, I mean, in 2003, grand final when we lost to Brisbane, we were the $1.75 favourites to win that. And the expectation was through the roof. And I know everyone's nervous. It's different for a grand final in a lot of ways, but the mentality shifts. Like when you're in a home and away game that's so important like this, and Adelaide are expected to win, and the world's against us saying that we probably won't even make finals and we're done, is all of a sudden you just grow. There's a little bit of anger there. There's a little bit of emotion there. There's a little bit of extra drive, and there's a point to prove. And when you've got every single player with a little bit more to give, mentally and physically, and angry at the footy worlds and wanting to show them who is boss, And Adelaide are going, we can't lose. I'm nervous. Haven't played in finals before. Haven't played in a big game like this at Adelaide Oval before. This is the biggest I've ever played, and we're coming to kill you, blokes. It's a different mindset. It's a shift. It's a shift in mindset. And you're going out there to just get about everything you got with absolute gusto without any thought about what's happening in your second contest. You're just worried about what's going on in that first. And it can be a shock to the opposition. And you plant those seeds of doubt in the opposition's mind when you hit the opposition hard because you're desperate and you're angry. The opposition feel it, and then they go, shit. They're thinking to themselves, are we up to this? I'm not sure. And then that's when the seed of doubt is obviously clearly planted, and it's really hard mentally to obviously win those sort of games. This is why, like, if Adelaide, I think they're the real deal anyway. Don't get me wrong, but they are certainly, like, I would say, if they win this, regardless of where the situation Collingwood are in at the moment and their form, I'd say they're flag favourites if they win this. Yeah,
it's going to be really telling in the first 5-10 minutes. Like, you want the Pies to absolutely come out and make a statement, something that we haven't done. Like, I'd even argue even during the Richmond game, we didn't really make a statement. What was it, a 27-point win or something like that? We've won one of our last 5, which is wild. Yeah. This is a good opportunity. Like, I know it's stupid to say, it's a good opportunity. Obviously, it's a good opportunity, but this is, everyone has written us off. Everyone, and there's, journos, even our own fans and stuff. I see it in the comments all the time. Turning on our players, and we're acting a little bit like Carlton supporters, and that's what we don't want. We don't want to become that rebel of a club. It needs to be. We need to see Tom Mitchell just lay someone into the ground. You remember in that first final with Braden Maynard smashed Ed Langdon, and he set the tone. That's right. Straight away. Yeah. That's what something like that needs to happen. I don't think Adelaide are going to come out in the media.
We haven't brought that sort of anger and energy for a few weeks, haven't we? It's nearly like we've just gone in plateau mode, and then obviously our energy's just come back, and mentally and physically we've looked a little bit exhausted. It looks like we're limping to the line. That's why I do feel like we'll see a different Collingwood in this game, and no doubt there'll be a couple of changes again. What do those changes look like for you?
So with Howe coming out, and with the big tall forwards that Adelaide got, I do think Charlie Dean probably comes in, and we talked about him being a good third or fourth defender, not so much a first or second. So someone just to sort of let Darcy Moore intercept, because that's what he hasn't been able to do, or they bring in Cox and chuck McStay down back for the whole time and make him a defender. So he's been training with the defence for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I know it's only to flip, but if you bring in McStay as a defender, can he go with maybe not a field thought, but like a Walker?
Is the fact that we've got here's a question for you. The fact that they've brought Membry in and he's actually playing okay and he's kicking a goal and a half a game, has that offset our balance a little bit? Because him and Mychek are pretty much just nearly the same player. Similar size, both marking players, both sort of move up and back pretty well. But, when they're both going well, is there room for McStay? And then obviously there's not room for Cox as well. And, it sort of offsets our balance a little bit, doesn't it?
It's the big thing because because you want a second ruck at times because Darcy Cameron can't do it all himself. So you have to have McStay or someone as a forward and a ruckman. But then for the last few weeks, McStay has had to be a forward, a ruckman, and a backman. So when Darcy Moore's coming off for a rest because he's getting smashed physically and everything, McStay has to go down back and then take some ruck and then run all the way forward and then try to get the ball that he just started at the back. I agree with you. It is interesting. Like, I think as much as I've sort of been harsh on him this year, Mason Cox. God, might be some sort of key.
I would have him as a sub, worst case scenario, because they put a lot of work into Cameron. They're banging his bodies. They're getting to the line. They're pushing him out of the way the ball line drop. And he hasn't. He's still going okay, but he hasn't performed at the level he was because they're putting more time in it and obviously more behind the footy as well. I'd bring in Cox and just relieve him a little bit. And whether it be off the bench, even if you brought him in after half-time and he rucks most of the second half, and then you put Cameron forward and he just comes in for 6 minutes to 8 minutes a quarter. Because Cox, just remember, he is actually taller than Cameron and he's got longer levers and he can get to more balls here, especially at centre bounces, and give us some really good looks late in the game.
Scares defenders as well.
It does. Imagine you got the Dacos boys in the middle and Duggoe and these guys when the game's there in the balance. Having a tired Darcy Cameron bang a body and he doesn't jump a lot of the time, he wrestles and then tries to tap, versus a jumping Cox who's just about guaranteed to get first hands on it against Riley, who's obviously a very good ruckman as well. I think they're going to need him. The problem is you got too many tools. Someone has to come out. For me, I know this is a huge call. I wouldn't play Membry for the rest of the year. I know he's been good. I would not play him. I reckon he's been pretty good this year, but I reckon he offsets your balance. I reckon you leave McStay forward and leave him there and plays as a forward the whole time. You don't move him. My check's in slightly better form than Membry, and he's got the history and the connection with the team, so he has to obviously stay there.
Big call.
And then away you go, and then you got the setup that you want moving forward, and then Cox can come off the bench and play there if you need him to, or whatever the case may be. But I think it's a big call. You think about, I know I'll talk about history a lot, but if you go back to 2010, you were talking about this on one of our first shows. You had Tarkin Lockyer playing, you had Medhurst, you had Josh Fraser, all those guys. You have to have stars playing in your twos to combat it. If you don't make harsh calls on your selection to get the balance right, because team balance is everything. I know as a player, when you go, you're out, son, because it's team balance, you say, this bloke's talking shit, But when you become a coach, you understand how important team balance is. I'm not sure if you can have Mychek and Membry in the same team, and Mychek is better at the pressure game at ground level, and he's got a hard edge, whereas Membry he needs it there, and he doesn't miss goals. I understand that. But have a look at his tackle. His tackle count's not high. I'm not sure, he's given us quite what we need. He keeps us in the game with some nice shots at goal, set shots at times, but he's not doing a truckload. I know he's kicked a goal and a half a game, but, Mychek can do that for you. Elliott at ground level can do that for you as well.
So you're going you're going Cox over Membry?
I would have Cox as a sub.
Yep.
And I'd bring him in just to dominate ruck in the second half.
Yeah, and then have McStay just permanent as a forward.
McStay permanent as a forward. Yep.
That would be
my check as well.
That would be big. Well, okay. Let's talk about selection then and hard calls. I don't think Ned Long should be in this team anymore.
I think just on form. Like I really like him, and take away his last 2 weeks, he's nearly first pick for me. Yep. But you're leaving a guy who's won a Brownlow, who's averaged 30 possessions his whole career out of the team, who's proven in finals, who's won a premiership and a Brownlow. So it's hard to leave him out now at this point in time. And like we've been talking about, I still don't believe you can have both of them in the team because they're both grunt players on the inside. And we're having Pendlebury there, who's obviously still so important to them. He's not overly quick either, Pendles, as you know. Super fit and smart, but you can't have too many of those types that aren't quick with their legs. Yeah. For me, I just think that his form's off. So let's bring him back. If there's an injury, you bring him back, but let's get him back into the VFL and leave Mitchell in there and let him go to work.
Yeah, and I think the writing was on the wall after that Brisbane game where. I know this is ingrained into my memory, but 9 disposals, 5 turnovers, 11% disposal efficiency. I know he's doing a bit of a run with roll, but I thought he was going to be dropped the next week. They made him the sub. Obviously, he comes in the first minute, so it is what it is. And I did want to see. I wanted to see it more during the Brisbane game. How can Ned Long and Tom Mitchell work together in tandem in a finals-like game? And obviously, they dropped or managed Mitchell instead. But after seeing that Hawthorn game, I know we shouldn't go on possessions too much, but Ned Long had like 10 or something possessions, only 3 tackles when he's averaging 8. Yeah. He's averaging 8 tackles or 7.5 or something a game, and he hasn't been able to do that recently. And then Tom Mitchell had 7 tackles, had 20 disposals, a handful of clearances. You need guys like him, and I like you said, I love Ned Long. I love what he's been able to do, but people got to remember he's younger than Nick. He this is his full first season. playing so many games in a row.
It is.
He's been incredible, absolutely incredible. He'll be better for the run.
Yep.
But he has teered it off, and Tom Mitchell is just sort of coming up. So they're like intersecting at the moment.
Yeah.
And Tom Mitchell in a finals pressure football game, Tom Mitchell is my man and will always be my man.
Yeah, and I think they've got a problem at the moment where they're going, okay, who plays wing, who plays middle? They've got a lot of depth.
You were talking about this last week.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth there, and you're going, does DeGoey start in? Does he start out? Do you have Pendles in? Do you have Nick? Do you have Josh? There's a lot of options there, but I reckon we've got to put our two wingers in place, where it's Lipinski and. Who I know Hoskin Elliott's playing there a little bit and half forward as well, but I think the wingers are so important to them. We're not hitting up the wingers. We're not switching to our wingers anywhere near enough. Put two very experienced, high quality. Lipinski's one of our best runners. And best users. Get him out there, and he's not overly tough. We get him wide, get him using the ball with his skills and his running capacity. Maybe a Josh goes to a wing a bit as well.
Opens up Dan Houston.
2023, he was a winger, in our premiership year, and then Houston's played well last week as more of a high back as well. So get him back to what he's used to doing and playing in that position as well. So there's some options there, but I think find a way to get it settled rather than throwing guys around all over the shop. It's hard to get settled in games when that's happening.
No, it is. And when you look at this game coming up against Adelaide, and then you look at our injury list for players that will play in the first team, this is the healthiest it's been all season, except for Jeremy Howe.
Yeah.
Everyone that's sort of out. I know you can make a case for Lockie Sullivan, who's been in most of the team, but we're pretty healthy, or not pretty healthy. We're very healthy with our first team stuff, and it's just him and Bobby.
And Hill this week.
McCreary should be good to go.
Yeah.
At training, he was doing a couple of run-throughs. He'll go through tests this week, but we need his pace.
Yeah. Is he going to be fit enough to go straight in?
I think so. Yeah, so McCreary trained really well. On Tuesday, he's got the main session on Thursday to see how he goes. Yep. But he looks like he hasn't lost any speed. I was hearing that he was touch and go last week, but they wanted to give him another week. We need his speed injection. Like, you look at that Fremantle game, 15 tackles. They ran him through the middle. He looked incredible. Bobby trained again. He returned from that sort of bout of gastro and those personal issues. I'm still of the belief that he shouldn't have been the sub against Brisbane. He should have played that whole game.
Yeah.
But if he plays or not, I was at training on Tuesday, and training finished.
Yep.
And Bobby McRae and Jared Wade, the high performance manager, in the middle of the ground had about a 10-minute conversation, or we'll say 5 to 10 minute conversation, just the three of them.
What do you think they would have been talking about? Do you reckon it would have been whether or not he can run the game out? Yeah. Because
looking at that footage and go back, if you haven't already, go back and watch it on. It's the Tuesday training on Swoop Luke's YouTube channel. He looked a little bit skinny.
Yeah.
The gastro must have ran right through him, because he did look a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but he trained really well.
Yeah.
And would you rather a 100% fit Bobby or thereabouts as a sub for 50% of the game, or not play him at all?
I think we've got to break this down right now. You nearly got to throw fitness and everything out the window and just get your best players out there to 100%. A certain degree. Like, as long as they're in reasonable condition, you got to go with your best, because it's not just about winning the game. It's about connecting. Even if you don't win, or you do win and you play finals, you want to be able to be well connected and settled as a group by the time we hit first week of the finals as well. So you got to back your best group in for here, unless you 100% know someone's nowhere near it.
Yeah,
that's a different story. But he's just got to play now, and if you have to manage him a little bit later in the game and get your fitter players out, then do that then. But with the games won, usually in the first quarter, a lot of the time,
we've seen it,
when you've got obviously a lead invested, then and you got confidence invested, and away you go, and you generally run away with it. So we need to put ourselves in a good position, a winning position early in the game.
And I think that's the biggest thing as fans. On the outside looking in, if Bobby is fit and he puts his hand up and say, "I'm good to go," we want to see Fly and the coaches pick him. Because, like you said, you need your best 23 out there all the time.
Yeah,
and if he's putting his hand up and saying, "I'm good to go, I've trained really well,"
Yep.
But then we know, stupidly or not, that Fly and the coaches are like, okay, but your GPS numbers should have been at 15. They were at 13.5.
Yeah.
You didn't do this. You only sprinted 100 times instead of 120 times. So you're not hitting these metrics. How much does sports science
This is
stuff
why
us
I'd
up?
say that needs to nearly not completely be thrown out the window. If the margins are a big discrepancy, then you don't play. But I mean, it's the same. It's the old thing. Like, we had GPSs sort of late in the piece when I started playing.
Yeah.
But some of the players, like a Scott Burns, for instance, didn't have anywhere near as high as like a Paul Curia or someone like that. But the value that he brings because he's so hard at the footy and bangs bodies more than most other players. And I'm not talking just tackling, I'm talking bumping, and real intense.
What a player. Yeah.
That takes heat out of you, and that means that you can't run from A to B to C as well as someone who's more of an outside player as well. So you've got to take in the context of what happens in these games. Are you getting banged by a body more often than other players? Have you had second or third efforts earlier in the game, which meant that you didn't run out a bit like you say? There's so many different things that have to be taken into consideration that a GPS won't show you with the data. So, like I said, let's get back to getting our best team out there, and we want to make sure that we're in front. At quarter time, and we've got some confidence invested into the game, and you got to do that by playing your best crew.
Yeah, and I think, I think you're right. I think it's a time to roll the dice. Even we've seen Jordan De Goey over the last 2 weeks. He probably wasn't supposed to play a full game last week. They managed his minutes, and he looked good.
Yeah.
Wasn't 2023 Jordan De Goey yet, but he looked great.
Yeah.
You add Bo and you add Bobby. And then Lockie Schultz, and you've got these three speedy guys who are opening up your forward line. Because what I found last week was that our forward line, everyone was trying to mark over one another. That could just be because they're tired and fatigued and stuff. But you open it up, get a little bit more excitement into there. But speaking of speed and Bo, you want to talk about this sort of reported Port Adelaide tour that he...
Yeah, before we get to that, the other thing is with just selection is, and these guys, if you've got a McCreary and a Bobby Hill in your team, you play with more confidence, knowing that they're in your team.
Yep.
So it's just the old thing that, you got your best team out there and you're running out, you're warming up, you're side by side with these star players, premiership players. You feel like you're bulletproof, you're ready, you're confident.
Because they got the runs on the board.
That's right, they got the runs on the board. But getting back to McCreary, so obviously the rumour file is that he did a tour of Port Adelaide Footy Club.
Weekend,
There's no freaking way this side of China he would be doing that. Is there?
No way.
Is that? Is anyone confirmed that that's actually happened?
No, I think I don't know where that rumour started, but I've had so many people message me about it. I'm like, there's no way. He's contracted until 2027. You'll be stupid,
You're not at this time of the year. You're going into finals
Injured
in
as
the
well.
biggest club in the land. You've got blonde, long, curly hair down to here. It's not like someone's going to go. You're not going to see you, and it's going to be the biggest news in the world.
Yeah,
and plus, if you're going to move clubs, you don't need to see everyone's facilities are bloody good these days.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's our weights machine. I'm going there because their bench press is way better than the one we've got at Collingwood. You're going there for the cash. You can do that on emails and on a phone call. Yeah. He did not go. There's no way he went to Port Adelaide Footy Club.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, like contracted until 2027. Even like, even that. And I want to hear your thoughts as a former player. And I don't know how much the media had a sort of say in it when you were playing, but John Ralph in the space of 2 weeks came out with 3 or 4. Bobby should go to Carlton or Gold Coast. Bo should go to Gold Coast. Darcy Cameron, everyone's unhappy, and we'll talk about that in a second. How much does that get back to the players? All that sort of stuff.
Players sit there like we used to. Obviously in my day there wasn't social media. There was less journalists and reporters and so forth. But the same sort of stuff was happening, and you quite open the paper, and you go, "What's his tweet on about? That didn't happen." Or that happened, but it was exaggerated. The cows come home, and and that's the thing with footy players. Like, it's never always as bad as what it seems. And you're never going as well as what you think you are as well, based on what the media is saying. So when Collingwood are flying, they're going to win the flag by 10 goals, blah, blah, blah. They've lost the last couple of games, and now they're not going to miss the 8, and no one rates them. Hang on a minute. 5 weeks ago, we couldn't be beaten. So it just fluctuates based on what's on trend and what's going to sell papers and what the clickbait looks like. And all of a sudden, the sheeple footy supporters are out there following and going, oh, yeah, whatever Gary Lyons says is right. Collingwood are gone. And then we win this week and everyone's going, oh, yeah, they're back. They start backing us for the flag again. It's just like... It changes so much week to week. But in-house, the players, what I'm saying is the players look at this stuff and they would just be worried about that. Seeing here so much stuff, and it'd just be like water off a duck's back for most of them. Okay, I would say, and they just let's just worry about obviously the game against Adelaide and get that right. But because there's so many murmurs and different things happening and people are writing them off, I do believe that would give them, overall some energy to get this right and some extra motivation to get it right.
And I think the extra motivation as well stems from Darcy Cameron signing on. Extending his contract for a few more years, and Pendlebury playing. So I think that timing of that contract and the Pies announcing it after some shitty weeks is perfect. Yeah. Because there was a lot of rumblings that people in the locker room were unhappy about Darcy Cameron, the Pies not coming to the party. Pendlebury, when he signed on, he was talking to Jay Clark in the Herald Sun, and he said the guys in the locker room could feel, they knew what was going on. So, that, to me, that goes, okay, maybe that was a little bit why Darcy Cameron looked like he was playing in two minds and why everyone was a bit more fatigued than what they should have been. It was just playing on them mentally. But now that's loosened up a little bit. Darcy Cameron doesn't have to worry about taking a $1.2 million Godfather contract from the Eagles, playing at the Pies now till 2029, and he'll just be ready to monster Riley O'Brien on the weekend.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Look, I don't know how players handle these sort of things in this day and age, and contracts and guys around them that haven't signed yet, or someone coming in getting too much money and hey, where's my slice? And I never worried about anything like that at all at any stage. It was a different era, but I just thought, I can only do what's in my control, and that is train well, play well, and hopefully win some finals games in a flag. That was all I was really worried about, and having a good time with it with my mates. We'll worry about next year when it comes. Worry about next contract when it comes. So I don't know how much players worry about this. I think we're just in a form slump. I just think we're older, and we played 3 games in 11 days. I just feel like this 9-day break's come at the absolute perfect time. Yes, hopefully this stuff helps. I don't know. Maybe it does help. Maybe it doesn't. I'm not sure. But either way, we've got a big game to play, and we're still in it, and this is it. This is probably the last hurrah for us to finish top 2. Yep. Yeah. And we put ourselves in a good position again overnight by a really good performance against a bloody good team in Adelaide. So, it's great to see Darcy Cameron signing on. He's a star, and Pendle's for his 21st season as well. I just want him to keep playing, because I can just keep saying, I played with him. But Dad, aren't you old? Yeah, I'm old, but I still played with him. I'm not that old. Obviously, I'm not that old, because I played with this guy, all right? And he's still playing. But Pendle's is old too.
Far, yeah. No, I agree with everything that you said. 100%. Hopefully it does provide that little extra spark. Yeah. That little extra spark. But just quickly before we sort of wrap up, so the Adelaide game on Saturday, we talked about it earlier on in the season when they came to the G. Yeah. It was raining. Yep. It's going to be raining on Saturday as well.
Yeah, interesting.
So it's going to be pouring on Friday, so a wet ground, and then raining on Saturday. Yeah.
I don't think it suits Adelaide, to be honest. I mean, I don't think it suits us too much either, to be honest. But I think we've got some small forwards they've got a couple of good small forwards as well. But, they rely on the Fogartys, the Philthorpes, and obviously Walker as well. Big guys, big strong units that need it here. Yeah. Gets a little bit wet. That's going to be interesting. It's going to be easier for us to combat, and you maybe don't need a Charlie Dean if it's going to be wet, because Maynard can go to a Fogarty and away you go. And that's how I'd probably play it anyway, to be honest.
I think that's what you said last time as well.
Yeah, I'd go Maynard to Fogarty, maybe obviously Frampton gets Philthorpe, and Darcy gets... and that way we've got some genuine good opponents. Because what happens is when Moore gets a dropout player... Yep. then what tends to happen is they put work into him so he can't fly.
Yeah.
But if he actually goes plays on someone, a bloody good player, and just plays more dour, he'll still get the opportunities at the right time to drop off and take his marks, and he'll have more freedom to do that if he plays on a better player, if that makes sense. So so hopefully that works out for him. I'd love to see him get back in great form. But look, it's going to be an interesting game. Weather footy's not what it used to be anyway, is it, in the modern game?
No, the drainage systems of the grounds and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, it just gets a little bit slippery, but and the balls hold up well, and the ground holds up well. But no one wears screw-ins anymore, do they? You know?
No, I think they're banned. They're banned now, aren't they?
Are they banned?
Didn't Toby Green get fined like $50,000 for wearing? Oh, I think that was metal studs, maybe.
Might have been metal. I think you can still wear them as long as they're the plastic ones, but. I mean, you see players slipping and sliding all the time when it gets wet because the surface is so good and it gets wet and away you go. But so hopefully the Collingwood boys have got their proper screws.
Neil, you would have worked with Neil, the boots.
Neilo, good mates. So Neilo, love that guy.
Everyone's got the plastic.
Make sure they got the right boots, Neilo. I'm coming for you. If I see any boys slipping over, I'm coming for you.
We bloody love Neilo. Dutchy, is anything else you wanted to chat about before we wrap up?
Oh, I think that's about it. I think I'm just happy that we've got a couple of these boys signed on, and obviously a couple more to go. I think it's a big game. Look, I'm tipping us to, I'd probably tip us to win every week anyway, but I'm tipping us to come back in a big way with some serious energy. Adelaide Oval's well suited to the way we want to play. They're going to be nervous. We like the fact that they're going to be nervous, and we've got a lot to play for. So do they. But it's like a final. It is like going to be played like a final, and finals intensity and atmosphere, and we know what that looks and feels like. Do Adelaide? That is the big question mark.
Yeah, mate. Couldn't have said it better myself. I'm tipping us for a win as well, and for everyone to jump back on the bandwagon, because
if you're going to ever back the Pies, back them before they beat Adelaide. That's all I'm saying, because they're going to go for $12 to $6. Not that I'm a betting man, but if I was, I'd probably
I'd do that too. It's going to be a bloody good game, mate. This was incredible.
On your Swoopy.
I'll see you next week.
Been a pleasure.
See you, mate.
Cheers, buddy.